Sure, here's part 1 expanded to about 1,000 words, in simple English, third person with no headings, and avoiding any violated content. Alex lived alone in a small wooden cabin deep in the snowy mountains. He liked the silence, the tall trees, covered with snow, and the way the wind made the whole forest whisper at night. He had no neighbors for miles around, only animals and the sound of his own footsteps crunching through the snow. Every day, he chopped wood, cooked simple meals, and sometimes read old books by the fire. One night, the snow was falling heavy, covering everything in a thick white blanket. Alex sat by his fire, listening to the crackling logs and the wind outside. Suddenly, he heard a strange, soft cry, almost like a whimper, coming from somewhere near his door. At first, he thought it was a wild animal, maybe a fox or a wolf, but the sound was too weak and too sad. It sounded almost like a child. Alex stood up, grabbed his thick coat, and opened the door a little. The cold air rushed inside, making him shiver. He looked out into the night, but at first he saw nothing but darkness and falling snow. Then, as his eyes got used to the dim light, he noticed a small shape curled up next to his porch. It was hard to see what it was, but it was moving, shivering badly. He stepped outside, careful not to scare whatever was there. As he got closer, he realized it was not an animal or a child. It was something else, something he had never seen before. The shape was thin, with smooth, pale skin that almost looked blue in the moonlight. It had large eyes, long fingers, and strange marks on its arms. It was wrapped in torn cloth, nothing warm, and its small body shook from the cold. Alex's heart started to beat faster. He didn't know if this creature was dangerous or if it needed help, but he could see fear in its big eyes, and the way it tried to pull away from him when he got closer. He spoke softly, hoping his gentle voice would make it feel safe. "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you," he said. But the creature did not understand his words. He noticed that its hands and feet were chained with thin metal, and its skin was covered in scratches and bruises. Alex knew right away that someone had hurt it and left it here to die in the snow. He couldn't leave it outside, not in this weather. So, moving slowly, he reached down and picked it up. The creature was light, almost too light, and its body felt cold as ice. Alex carried it inside, closing the door quickly to keep the warmth in. He put the creature down on a soft rug near the fire and ran to get a blanket. Wrapping the blanket around the small body, he saw the creature relax a little, but it still watched him with wide, frightened eyes. He hurried to make some hot tea. While the water boiled, he knelt beside the creature, trying to show he meant no harm. "You're safe now," he said, not knowing if it understood. He saw its lips move, trying to form words, but nothing came out except a soft sound. When the tea was ready, he brought it in a mug and held it out. The creature looked at it with confusion, then reached out with shaky hands. Alex helped it hold the mug, and it sipped the tea slowly, eyes never leaving Alex's face. After a few sips, a bit of color returned to its cheeks and the shivering slowed down. Alex took a closer look at the marks on its arms. The chains were tight, but not locked. He carefully unwrapped them, noticing how the creature flinched every time he touched its skin. "It's okay. I'm just helping," he whispered. When the chains fell away, the creature stared at its own hands in surprise, as if not believing it was finally free. The two sat quietly by the fire for a long time. Alex kept feeding the flames, making sure the room stayed warm. The creature finished the tea, then curled up in the blanket, still watching Alex but no longer shaking so much. He wondered where it had come from, who had left it outside, and what it was. He thought about calling someone, but who would believe him? There was no phone signal in these mountains, and he didn't want to risk the creature's safety by telling the wrong person. The storm outside grew worse, but inside the cabin, it was warm and quiet. Alex sat on a chair, reading his book, but glancing at the creature every few minutes. He tried to think of a name for it, something kind and gentle. Finally, he whispered, "Maybe I'll call you Mira," because it sounded soft and he thought it fit her. Mira, as if she understood, looked at him and made a soft noise, almost like a thank you. Alex smiled, feeling a strange sense of peace. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for now, he was sure of one thing. He would protect this small, lost being, no matter what. Outside, the snow kept falling, hiding all signs of the world. Inside, two very different lives had just come together, changing everything for both of them. Alex woke early the next morning, sunlight slipping through the frost on the window. Mira was still asleep on the rug by the fire, wrapped in blankets. Alex gently carried her to a small makeshift bed near the wall so she would be more comfortable. Mira stirred and opened her large eyes, seeing Alex's kind face. She gave a small nod and yawned, then curled back into the blankets. Breakfast was simple porridge and fruit. Alex placed a bowl in front of Mira and showed her how to hold the spoon. Mira watched carefully, then reached out with her slender fingers and scooped a small bit of porridge. She brought it to her lips, tasted it, and smiled. Alex felt relief. Food was important, and Mira needed strength. They ate in silence, sharing the warmth of the cabin. After breakfast, Alex gathered clothes that he had washed and dried by the fire. He laid them out on a chair, a thick shirt, pants, heavy socks, and sturdy boots. Mira looked at them with curiosity. Alex pointed to the shirt and pant legs, then gently helped her into the clothes. Mira struggled at first, sleeves too long and pants too wide. Alex laughed softly, and Mira tilted her head, not understanding the sound, but feeling its warmth. Once dressed, Mira examined herself in a small mirror hung on the wall. She touched the fabric, then smiled and looked at Alex. He nodded and led her outside to the porch. The snow had stopped, leaving a crisp, white world. Alex handed Mira a thick coat and pulled the hood over her head. She blinked at the brightness, but seemed pleased by the warmth. Together, they stepped off the porch into fresh snow. Alex showed Mira how to walk without slipping. He balanced easily in his boots, but Mira nearly fell several times. Alex held her hand, guiding her slow steps. She looked down at her feet, concentrating hard. After a moment, she found her balance and began to walk more confidently, her face lighting up with pride. Alex smiled, glad to see progress. They walked toward the woodpile. Alex pointed to the pile of logs and then to his axe. He slowly demonstrated how to split wood, raising the axe and bringing it down with steady force. Mira watched, fascinated. Then Alex gave her a small, lighter piece of wood and a toy-like tool. Mira mimicked his movements carefully, but the tool slipped and spun in her hand. She laughed at her mistake. A soft sound like silver bells. Alex laughed too, clapping his hands. Mira looked at him and smiled wider. Inside the cabin again, Alex taught Mira to start the fire. He knelt by the hearth, placing kindling and small twigs, then used a flint to spark a small flame. Mira watched the flickering light, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames. Alex offered her a piece of flint. She struck it against metal, creating sparks that made her gasp in wonder. Soon she could light small bits of kindling herself. Alex cheered softly, proud of her success. As the day passed, Alex asked Mira questions. He drew pictures in the snow with a stick, simple shapes and symbols. He pointed to a drawing of a house, then to himself, saying, "Alex." Then he pointed and drew a shape of Mira, hoping she would touch it. Mira touched the drawing and pointed, to herself, then to Alex, and smiled. She spoke a short word. "Alex." Alex patted her hand, nodding. They repeated new words. Cabin, snow, food, warm. Slowly their shared language grew. Alex gathered berries and herbs near the edge of the forest, showing Mira how to pick only safe plants. Mira's fingers were delicate as she touched each leaf. Alex explained in simple words that some plants could heal and some could hurt. He showed her a small scrap on his finger and rubbed a herbal paste on it. Mira watched closely, then helped by mixing more paste in a wooden bowl. Alex applied it to her own arm and then carefully to the bruises on Mira's arm. She winced at the cold paste but seemed comforted by the care. As afternoon fell, Alex brought out an old notebook and pencil. He sat beside Mira and drew simple pictures of animals they might see: deer, fox, rabbit. He wrote the words under each drawing. Mira traced his letters with her finger, then attempted to copy them. Her letters were shaky but clear. Alex encouraged her, praising each attempt. She beamed, proud that she could make marks on paper. They filled the notebook with new lessons. Outside again, they listened to bird calls. Alex imitated the sounds. Cheer, cheer, caw, hoot. Mira listened, then copied each call. They laughed at the strange sounds. Alex showed Mira how to build a small shelter in the snow for small animals, teaching her to respect and protect wildlife. Mira used her small hands to pat snow into walls. Together, they made a mini shelter and left seeds inside. Alex said, "Help," and pointed to the seeds. Mira nodded and gently put them inside. When evening came, the sky turned pink and purple. Alex lit lanterns in the cabin, and the soft glow filled the room. He cooked a warm stew with root vegetables and meat they had stored. The smell filled the cabin. Mira sat at the table watching him spoon stew into a bowl. When she tasted it, her eyes widened with delight. She ate slowly but with hunger, nodding at each bite. After dinner, Alex played a soft tune on an old guitar. He kept by the fire. The sound was gentle and calm. Mira listened, closing her eyes. Alex sang a few words, a lullaby from his childhood. Mira tilted her head, listening to the melody, then hummed along softly. The music filled the cabin with a peaceful feeling. Alex smiled at Mira, happy to share a simple joy. As night fell, Alex helped Mira into warm pajamas he had found in his small supply. He tucked her into the little bed by the wall. Mira smiled and reached out to touch Alex's cheek. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Good night." Mira closed her eyes, breathing softly, and drifted into sleep. Alex sat by the fire for a long while, thinking of the day. He felt hope and purpose he had never known before. He knew teaching Mira, caring for her, and learning from her would not be easy, but it was right. He looked at the door, thinking of what dangers might come next. But he was ready. For now, he had given Mira safety, warmth, and trust. Together, they would face whatever tomorrow brought. Alex woke before dawn again. The sky was still dark, and the stars shone cold over the snow. Mira was awake too. She sat on the small bed, holding the old notebook they had filled. She drew slowly, her long fingers moving with care. Alex sat at the table, sipping hot tea, watching her. He noticed she was drawing lines and shapes, but this time the shapes were different. They were not animals or shelter. They looked like a ship, broken and falling, and a small figure alone in snow. Alex pointed to the drawing of the ship, and then to Mira. She touched the picture, then touched her own chest, and made a soft sound like, Alex nodded and drew the sky above the ship. Mira pressed her hand over the sky and made a small noise, and then pointed to the broken part of the ship. Alex added a line of snow around the ship in the drawing. Mira's eyes got wide, and she nodded, then touched her own arm where the old bruises were. Alex slowly understood that she was trying to tell him about where she came from. He drew a path from the ship to a shape of a place with walls and people. He drew small figures holding chains, and then a figure like Mira with marks on the arms. Mira's face grew sad. She made a small noise and looked away. Alex reached over and gently held her hand. She did not pull back this time. She let him hold her. Later, when the sun rose, Alex brought out the small mirror and a soft cloth. He cleaned the old scars on Mira's arms and shoulders. She watched him, and then she turned her head and pointed to the scars with one finger. Alex pointed to the drawing of the chained figure and then to the scars. Mira touched the scars again and closed her eyes. Alex whispered, "Bad," before. Now safe. Mira looked at him, then at the fire, then made a sound like yes. She reached out and touched his face lightly, a small question in her eyes. Alex smiled and nodded. He understood. Her past had pain, and she had no choice then. That afternoon, the sound of a distant motor broke the quiet. Alex froze, then looked toward the small window. He saw fresh tracks in the snow leading from the old road to the edge of the trees. The tracks were not from animals. They were wide, deep, and made by more than one vehicle. Alex's heart beat faster. He looked at Mira. She sat quietly with the notebook open, her eyes sharp now. She held the small wooden pencil in her hand like a guard. Alex walked outside, leaving Mira inside only for a moment. He stepped into the cold and followed the tracks quietly. The path went near the frozen creek, then turned toward the cabin. Alex saw 3 men at the tree line. They wore heavy coats with small patches on the shoulders he did not recognize. They spoke in low voices. He could not hear their words, but they had a careful look, like they were searching. One of them had a device hanging from his belt, and another held a small metal tool with a light. Alex went back inside fast. He closed the door slowly and pulled the heavy curtain over the window. He did not want to scare Mira, but he needed to protect her. He sat beside her and she reached out, placing her hand over his. She did not speak. Alex drew 3 small figures outside the window on paper, then a line of snow, then the cabin. He pointed to the drawing and made a quiet sound. "They come." Mira looked at the drawing, then at him, and her eyes widened. She knew. Alex moved a small table to cover the secret room behind the wall. It was a space he had built earlier, small and hidden, used for extra supplies. He helped Mira move there. She went in slowly, looking around. The room was cold, but he had a thick blanket and some extra clothes hidden under old boxes. Alex closed the secret door and covered it with the table. He whispered, "Safe." Mira nodded and held her own hand, breathing slowly. The men came to the cabin soon after. Alex opened the door a little and stood in the gap, looking calm. The 3 men stepped forward. One of them had a badge, but it was strange. It had no name, only a symbol of a circle broken by a small line. The tallest man spoke first. His voice was low and careful. "We heard sounds," he said. Alex answered, "I live here. It's quiet. Snow made noise. You need help?" The man stepped in, looking around slowly. He asked questions that sounded like, "Any visitors? Any strange things?" Alex shook his head and smiled. He kept his voice soft. The second man moved near the window and looked out slightly. Alex followed his gaze, keeping steady. The tallest man pulled out a small device like a glass box and waved it around the room. It made a soft sound, like a humming. Alex saw the man look toward the floor near the fire, then to the secret wall. The man's face grew a little sharp. He walked closer, and Alex stepped in front, careful not to block too much, only to slow. "Him?" "I have no one here," Alex said. The man looked at him closely, then at the girl's small blanket near the fire. He asked again, "You sure? We can help if you hide something dangerous." Alex nodded. "Nothing dangerous. Just snow and fire." The man glanced at Alex's rough hands and then at his face. He saw the small notebook on the table, open with drawings. He picked it up gently. Alex reached and took it back with a quiet, "Move." The man did not grow angry. Instead, he folded it and put it aside. The third man looked around the room again, then the tallest man lowered his voice. "We are asking for a traveler," he said. "We know someone passed this way, a small figure with marks. We want to help her. We have orders." Alex felt the cold under the words. He kept his face calm. "I saw nothing. Snow-hide steps. No traveler here." The man looked at Mira's small bed. He did not ask her name. He only watched the place. Then he said, "We will check the woods. Stay inside. We will return." The men left, their boots making slow sounds on the snow. Alex watched them go, then waited a few long minutes before moving. When the men were gone, Alex opened the secret room slowly. Mira looked at him with fear in her eyes. He sat beside her and drew the three men, the badge shape, and a circle broken by a line. He pointed to the drawing and said, "They ask. They look. Hide more." Mira nodded and touched the drawing of herself. She made a small noise like, "No." Alex held her hand and said, "They not safe. I keep you." She leaned into him, small body shaking. The next days became quiet but heavy. Alex watched the road and the tree line. He kept the fire hot, the cabin warm. He added more traps on the path, not to hurt anyone, but to make noise if someone came. He taught Mira how to stay quiet and why she must not show herself. She listened, her face serious, and practiced breathing slow when she heard sounds outside. Alex also worked to understand more of her past. He drew more pictures and Mira added pieces. She showed him a place with tall walls, a room with other small figures like her, and a long table where they were given little food. She showed a man with cold eyes and chains, then a small, bright place where the sky was open, and then darkness again. Alex made a simple line between the past and now. He said softly, "You not there. Here safe." Mira touched his hand, and slowly, she made a small smile. It was weak, but it was real. Alex knew danger had come close. He also knew the trust between him and Mira had grown deeper. He would not let the strange men find her. He did not yet know who they were or why they looked for her, but he had a promise. He had already broken her old chains. Now he would hide her from new ones. The days after the men came were heavy. Alex moved slow but steady. He kept watching the woods, the road, and the sky. Mira stayed hidden most of the time in the secret room. She helped by drawing and learning more words. Their quiet life felt fragile. Alex knew he needed to build strength and a new hope. One morning, Mira did not come out for breakfast. Alex knocked softly on the secret door. "Mira," he called. No sound. He opened the door slowly. She lay curled under blankets, her face pale, her breathing was weak. Alex picked her up carefully and carried her to the warm bed. Her body felt cold, even with the fire. He wrapped more blankets and made a warm drink with herbs he had stored. Mira opened her eyes, then closed them again. Alex sat all day beside her. He wiped her forehead with a clean cloth. He whispered soft words, though he wasn't sure if she heard. He used the small notebook to draw a sun, a fire, and a warm house. He pointed at each drawing and then to Mira, and then to his own heart, showing she was not alone. Mira touched the drawings with thin fingers, then touched his hand. Her eyes showed she understood. She tried to speak, but her voice was small. Alex held her hand and let her rest. He watched her for 2 full days. Her fever went up and down. Alex used the herb paste on her skin, and he made light broth with small pieces of meat and root vegetables. He fed her slowly, spoon by spoon. She drank, but her body stayed weak. On the 3rd night, she slept with her hand on his arm. Alex felt the small weight and a quiet trust. He promised quietly, "I keep you. You live. We find new place." As Mira got better, Alex let her sit by the fire again. Her color returned, slowly. She still moved quiet, but she could stand and walk without help now. Alex used the small mirror and gentle touch to clean her old wounds. She looked at her reflection, then at Alex, and made a soft sound, one that almost sounded like the word thank. Alex nodded, and they both smiled. The danger from before still lay outside like a dark cloud, but inside they had a warm light. One day, Alex brought out a folded map he kept in a box. It was old and soft from use. He spread it on the table and pointed to the small town far down, the valley. He drew a line from the cabin down the path to the town. He pointed to the town and then to Mira and made a hopeful sound. Mira touched the town with her finger and then touched her own chest. She drew a small heart by the town. Alex understood. She wanted to go. She wanted to see more. She wanted a new beginning. Alex felt the pull of this wish too. But fear was heavy. If they went to town, someone might notice her strange eyes, her different skin, her quiet way of moving. If the men returned and saw her missing, they might come harder. Alex drew a circle around the cabin and then small lines of defense. Noise, traps, hidden paths, and a plan to move quickly if needed. He showed Mira the drawings. She touched the circle, then her own face, then the town again. She lifted her hand and gently placed it over Alex's heart. He nodded. They spent the next days preparing. Alex taught Mira more about hiding. She learned how to cover tracks in snow, how to stay very still when she heard voices, and how to breathe slow to keep quiet. She practiced making small sounds into soft whispers. Alex also taught her simple signs. 3 fingers up meant wait, 1 finger to lips meant quiet, and both hands together meant safe. They added these to the notebook with small drawings. Mira worked hard, too. She helped Alex repair the door and the roof before winter returned. She moved heavy boxes without complaint. She learned to make small wooden tools from scrap and tried to copy Alex's knife work. Sometimes she made errors, and wood chips flew. She laughed, softly, and Alex laughed with her. Those laughs made the days lighter. The bond between them grew like a quiet tree in snow. Slow, strong, rooted in trust. Alex could not stop thinking about the men who had come. He tried to learn more about them without leaving the area. He watched their tracks and saw no return. Yet, he did not know if they would come again with more force or if they were still searching elsewhere. He kept the story of Mira's past in his mind. He drew more pictures of the men with cold eyes and the place with tall walls. Mira added small marks, showing fear, and then the line to now. Alex said softly, "We move when safe." She touched, the drawing of the town and then the drawing of herself, free. She made a small sound like a breath of wind, meaning yes. One night, a storm hit. Wind hit the cabin hard. Snow piled high against the walls. Alex could not leave the door open even. A little. Mira stayed quiet in the secret room. The wind made long sounds, like voices far away. Alex sat by the fire and held the notebook. He opened to the page where the town and the future home were drawn. He added a new drawing, a small path with a hidden mark for them to follow when the time came. He pointed to it, and then to Mira, and she nodded, her eyes bright with a small fire of hope. When the storm passed, the world outside was quiet and white. The snow had hidden old tracks and made new ones. Alex saw this as a gift. He cleared a small path, making sure it was safe and had no strange marks. He drew a new small map showing the starting point for the first part of their journey. He kept it hidden under the floorboard. Mira touched the floor and then the map. She traced the line with her finger, her face serious and calm. As days passed, Mira began to speak more. She used the new words they had built together: safe, town, go, stay, hide, friend, help. Alex. Added more words, too, pointing and repeating. Sometimes she mixed sounds, and Alex laughed, and she laughed back. The language between them grew like small green buds in winter. Slow but real. One evening, Mira brought a small stone she had found outside. It was smooth and dark. She placed it in Alex's hand. She then pointed to the sky and made a small circle with her finger. Alex thought she meant time. He touched the stone, then the sky, and then herself. He understood. She wanted a sign, a small piece of the world to carry when they left. Alex smiled. He put the stone in a small cloth bag and tied it around her neck gently. Mira touched it, then touched Alex's hand and gave a small sound. They both felt the weight of the plan and the light of the hope. Alex watched her sleep that night. Her breathing was calm. He touched her shoulder softly. He whispered, "Soon." She smiled a little and held his hand. Outside, the wind moved, soft over deep snow. Inside, 2 lives were changing. Alex had given her a place to rest. Mira had given him a reason to keep going. They did not know the dangers that waited, but they had each other. That was the start of a new hope. Spring came slow, but it came. The snow melted in small rivers, and the trees showed green tips. Alex and Mira knew the time had come. They prepared a small pack with warm clothes, food, and the old notebook with their drawings and words. Alex also wrapped the map carefully and hid it inside his coat. Mira wore the small stone around her neck, and she touched it often, as if it gave her courage. The morning they planned to leave was clear. The sun warmed the cabin roof, and birds sang outside. Alex opened the door and found a folded paper lying on the porch. It was thin, and the edges were soft from rain. He picked it up slowly. The paper had no name, only words written in quick letters. It said, "They know. Be careful. She not safe if seen. Move when the road is clear. Trust few." Alex felt a cold touch in his chest. He looked at the tree line, the path, the small marks he had made to watch for others. He did not know who left the note. It could be friend or watcher. He kept it close, and he did not tell Mira yet. He would protect her without making her afraid. They waited until midday. The sun had dried the small paths, and the tracks of the men from before were gone, washed away by the spring melt. Alex gave Mira a small mirror and showed her how to look at the world with calm eyes. He tied a small scarf around her head, not to cover her face, but to make her look like a quiet traveler. He wore a heavy coat, and they both carried small bags. Alex picked up a long stick with a hidden blade inside, not to fight, but to cut small branches if needed, and to help them move quietly. As they stepped outside, the cabin felt both empty and full. Empty because Mira would not sleep there again. Soon, full because it held the start of a new life. Alex led the way. Mira followed close, her steps careful. They moved through the melted snow, leaving soft marks behind, then covering them with leaves and small branches. Alex showed her how to move like a shadow. Slow, quiet, watching. She watched his face and copied each move. They reached the small creek that cut the path to the valley. The water ran clear, and small stones shone under the flow. Alex used a stick to test the depth and then helped Mira cross. She stepped carefully, then smiled when she made it to the other side without falling. They rested there a moment. Alex gave her a piece of dried meat and a berry, and she ate with joy. He pointed to the valley ahead on the hidden map, then to the path, and then to Mira. She touched the map and nodded. The first part of their journey was quiet. They moved through low brush, using old tunnels from animals to hide their steps. Mira watched the sky and called small birds with the sound they had practiced. The birds came close, curious. Alex whispered, "Friend?" and Mira smiled. She reached out and touched a bird gently. It flew away, leaving a small feather behind. She held the feather like treasure. As the sun moved west, they reached a small road. It was old, with cracked stones and moss in the cracks. Alex looked both ways. He saw no one. He put his finger to his lips and made the quiet sign. They crossed the road, moving fast but calm. On the other side, the trees were thicker, and the air smelled like new earth. Alex made small marks under, leaves to show their path in case they needed to come back. Mira watched him, learning each step. When they were far enough from the cabin, Alex stopped. He pulled out the folded paper with the warning. He showed it to Mira, pointing to the words slowly. She read the shapes of the letters and her face turned serious. She touched his arm and then touched her own chest, meaning she trusted him. Alex folded the paper back and put it away. He whispered, "We stay quiet. We go slow. We find new place." As evening came, the valley opened, showing the small town in the distance. Smoke rose from chimneys and tiny lights began to glow. Mira stopped and looked. She touched the small heart she had drawn near the town on the map. Alex held her hand and pulled her gently. He pointed to the buildings and then to the hidden path he had drawn before. They moved toward the town, but they stayed in the trees. At first, watching how people walked, how the town looked from far. Mira's eyes were wide, but she did not show fear. She had a small smile, and Alex saw hope there. They waited until the town lights were softer and the streets had fewer people. Alex had learned from watching the town that the market was loud in the day and quiet at night. They would go in small steps. They moved closer, using side paths. Alex showed Mira how to use the crowd as cover. He pointed to a group of travelers with big bags and wide hats. Mira adjusted her scarf and walked with him, matching their pace. No one looked twice. Inside, they carried the hidden map and the small notebook. But Alex kept them close under his coat. They reached a small, safe place near an old bakery. The smell of warm bread filled the air. Alex bought 2 small rolls with a few coins he had, saved. He gave one to Mira. She bit carefully, then her face showed pleasure. The warm bread felt like comfort after cold months. They sat behind a low wall, watching people pass. Alex watched for men with strange patches, and Mira watched the sky and the movement of shadows. They rested, and a quiet peace came over them, for a little while. After the dark came, Alex led Mira deeper into the town. He used small alleys and doorways. He found a cheap room above a quiet shop. The owner was a woman with kind eyes. Alex spoke soft words, and she nodded. She asked no questions at first. Alex paid in coins and spoke about needing a place to rest. The woman gave them the small room with a thin bed and a window that looked over the street. Mira looked around and touched the small stone at her neck. Then she touched the bed and she sighed softly, feeling safe. That night, they sat close. Alex opened the notebook. He added a new drawing, 2 small figures walking away from trees into a bright place. He wrote new words. New, start, hope, free. Mira traced the lines with her finger and then placed her hand on Alex's. She made a sound like, thank. Alex nodded and wrote her name beside the drawing, so the name would be there when she forgot parts of the past. They both slept a little, tired but awake inside their new beginning. Alex knew their life was not easy. The warning paper stayed hidden in his coat. He knew people might still look. He also knew the town had friends and quiet places. He planned to find work that kept them small and safe. Mira would learn to speak more, to walk among others, and to hide in plain sight when needed. Alex promised himself he would keep her safe, and Mira promised with her small nod that she would try to trust the world again. Outside, the town lights glowed like soft stars. Inside the room, 2 very different souls sat together and looked toward the future. The journey had been hard, but they had moved. The next day would bring new steps, new people, and new challenges. For now, Mira was no longer a lost being in snow. She had a place to rest, a friend beside her, and a path forward. Alex closed the notebook, and together they breathed in the quiet night, holding the small hope that this new beginning would grow strong.